It's said that death brings closure, but some funerals open doors no coffin can seal shut. In the sweltering heat of a Georgia summer, one woman came to bury her husband, only to find out she was never truly his widow. The chapel smelled like lilies and regret. Inside the modest sanctuary on Auburn Avenue, ceiling fans spun uselessly against the smothering southern heat. Mourners fanned themselves with printed obituaries, bearing a picture of a smiling man in a crisp gray suit. Darius Holloway, beloved father, gone at 47. The casket was closed. That was Monica's decision. His ex-wife, or so everyone thought. She sat in the front pew, wearing a pearl-white dress and a matching veil that made some guests whisper. Her lips were painted red, her hands clasped tightly over a folded silk handkerchief. Her eyes didn't cry. They watched. Then the doors opened. Late, unannounced, and in walked a woman in all black, holding the hand of a teenage girl with tear-stained cheeks and locked hair. The entire chapel turned. Before we begin, like this video and comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more intriguing stories. Now let's begin. Sierra Langston, the girlfriend, and beside her, Jasmine Holloway, Darius and Monica's only child. The air turned thick with tension as Monica slowly stood, her voice low, taut like piano wire. Monica sternly, "What are you doing here?" Sierra choked up, "We came to say goodbye." But Darius wasn't the only one lying still that day. The truth had been buried long before the casket was lowered, and what would come next would shatter everything they thought they knew about love, loss, and the law. Darius Holloway was many things. A former college football star turned insurance adjuster, a Sunday school teacher, a man who laughed loudly and forgave easily. But he was tired of pretending to love Monica. They had been married for nearly 20 years, 2 decades of slow resentment, frigid dinners, and masked bitterness. Their marriage had turned to stone, the kind of stone people throw when no one's watching. Monica Holloway was sharp, elegant, educated, emotionally precise. She taught literature at a private academy and could quote Audre Lorde and Zora Neale Hurston in the same breath. But she had grown cold, maybe cruel. Some say it started after Jasmine was born. Others say Monica never stopped grieving the child they lost before her, a son who died before he ever saw his first breath. Either way, when Darius started sleeping in the guest room and staying longer at the office, Monica noticed, and she documented everything. Some divorces are clean. Most aren't. But Monica's was something else, a performance, a negotiation, and a war all at once. Darius filed first, quietly, citing irreconcilable differences. But Monica wouldn't go down without a fight. She refused mediation. She subpoenaed his phone records. She hired a forensic accountant to comb through his finances. And when she discovered Sierra, 31, charming, ambitious, the betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was existential. Sierra wasn't just another woman. She was a curator at a local art gallery. And according to Monica, she was less woman, more distraction. In public, Monica remained poised. In private, she began to unravel. Her friends would later say she stopped sleeping, stopped eating. She started talking about, reclaiming what was hers. Not her marriage, her story. In April, after nearly 10 months of legal battles, Darius signed the final papers. He emailed his attorney, told his friends, took Jasmine out for ice cream and told her, "It's over. I'm free." He moved into a condo downtown, started making long-term plans with Sierra. He even booked a summer vacation for the 3 of them, Miami in August. But what Darius didn't know was that Monica never filed the paperwork. The thing about Georgia law is this: a divorce isn't final until it's filed and stamped by a judge. And Monica, she held those papers hostage. She didn't shred them, didn't burn them. She just waited. Why? Some say she wanted one last card to play. Others believe she simply couldn't accept being replaced. On the evening of June 30th, Darius left a voicemail for Sierra. Darius recorded, "Baby, I'm heading home now. Picking up some Thai. You want extra basil?" That was the last time anyone heard his voice. Neighbors say they heard nothing unusual. But at 2:13 a.m., Monica called 911. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "Monica, phone audio. Yes, my ex-husband is on the floor. He's not breathing." Paramedics arrived to find Darius in his kitchen, unresponsive, no signs of forced entry, an empty wine glass on the counter. No trauma, no struggle. Declared dead of sudden cardiac arrest. Case closed. Until it wasn't. Under Georgia law, the legal next of kin controls the body. And Monica, still legally married, she organized the funeral. She planned the obituary. She signed the death certificate. She chose the closed casket. Sierra was left with nothing. No answers. No goodbye. And Jasmine, trapped between two women, neither of whom seemed interested in truth, only control. Grief reveals, but also conceals. And Monica's performance was flawless, until it wasn't. The morning after the funeral, a clerk at the probate office made a strange discovery. The original divorce paperwork was still sitting in Monica's private file, unsigned by any judge. It had been dated April 11th. Filed. Never. When Darius's sister, Denise, called to contest Monica's handling of the funeral, she was told firmly, "The widow has full authority." But Darius didn't want a closed casket. He was afraid of dying in silence. He used to say it to Sierra all the time. "If something ever happens to me, don't let anyone silence my story." Now, his lips were sealed by more than death, and Monica was the only one with the key. 2 days later, Sierra entered Darius's condo. The place was undisturbed. His shoes were by the door, his phone still on the charger, dinner leftovers in the fridge. But in his nightstand, in a locked drawer, she found an envelope labeled, "For Jasmine, if anything happens to me." She didn't open it. Not yet. But the handwriting on front? It didn't look like his. Darius thought the divorce was final. But what was waiting on the other side of death was just the beginning. The line between wife and widow was supposed to be a matter of timing. But in the shadow of Darius Holloway's death, that line blurred until it vanished. And what emerged wasn't just a legal technicality. It was a weapon, one carefully kept, and lethally timed. The envelope was cream-colored, thick with weight. "For Jasmine, if anything happens to me." Sierra stared at it for hours, fingers trembling over the edges. But when Jasmine finally arrived that afternoon, fresh from her grandmother's house, she asked the only question that mattered. Jasmine said softly, "Did my dad know he wasn't divorced?" Sierra didn't answer. Instead, she handed the letter to her. Inside, folded neatly, was a single page. Typed, unsigned. The tone was strange, like someone trying to sound like Darius. "You're my star, baby girl. No matter what happens, don't trust people who show up only when it's convenient. You know who you are. Keep that. Keep it safe. Ask Mr. Lovell about the change I made. He'll know. No date. No signature. But at the bottom was a name, Mr. Lovell. Raymond Lovell was a probate and estate lawyer in East Atlanta. When Sierra called, he was curt until she mentioned Jasmine's name. He agreed to meet. Mr. Lovell, stern, cautious. Darius came to me 3 months ago. He wanted to update his will. Said he was getting remarried. He made Sierra his primary beneficiary. Named Jasmine as sole heir. Monica was removed entirely. But when Lovell submitted the updated will 2 weeks later, he never heard back. Lovell whispered. I emailed. Called. Nothing. Then news breaks he's dead. Just like that. The documents were never signed. The copy remained in Lovell's office. Legally, it meant nothing. Monica was still in control. While Sierra and Jasmine sat in stunned silence, Monica was moving in. Darius's condo building had a doorman. He remembered her. Monica arrived 2 days after the funeral with a locksmith, a U-Haul, and a certified copy of the marriage license. Doorman to police later. She said she was the wife. Legal tenant now. Told me to call the police if Sierra tried to show up. By Monday, all traces of Darius's life with Sierra had been boxed up and removed. Photographs, clothes, even a scrapbook Jasmine had made him last Father's Day. Gone. Sierra tried to organize a memorial of her own. Something intimate. But she couldn't access the death certificate. Couldn't order a burial plot. Couldn't even obtain a death notice without Monica's signature. Everything was locked. Legally, emotionally, logistically, Monica had shut it down. And when Jasmine refused to move in with her mother again, Monica responded with the court filing. Temporary custody order. Jasmine would stay with her grandmother until the hearing. Some women mourn with silence, some with rage, and some with obsession disguised as decorum. In public, Monica spoke in pastels. She gave a eulogy that made people cry, described Darius as her great heartbreak and her lifelong love, painted herself as a woman robbed of time, not a woman who wasted it, but in private, she was erasing history. She had Darius's social media pages deactivated, removed Jasmine's photos from the condo, canceled Sierra's cell number, which had been on the shared plan. One friend, a former colleague, would later say, Monica didn't lose a husband. She reclaimed property. It was Jasmine who noticed it first. One night, she curled up on her father's old couch at her grandmother's house, flipping through his Bible. It still smelled like his cologne, cedar wood and clove. Inside, underlined in pen, was a verse from Proverbs. A wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. Beneath the verse, in the margins, someone had written in capital letters, "She's still watching. Trust no one." The handwriting? Not his. More elegant, curved, precise. Jasmine knew it. It looked like Monica's. But why would Monica write in his Bible? And why that message? That same week, Sierra received a voicemail. No caller ID. Distorted voice. Voicemail. You think love makes you special. It makes you disposable. He lied to both of you. She played it again. And again. Jasmine heard it once and whispered wide-eyed. That sounded like Aunt Rochelle, Jasmine said. Sierra paused. Sierra queried, Your mom's cousin? From Florida, Jasmine remarked. The one who disappeared in 2016. Sierra looked stunned and exclaimed, Baby, Rochelle's dead. But in this story, death was never the end. It was a curtain. Behind it, a performance still in motion. Darius had been a member of Trinity United Baptist for 15 years. He mentored boys, volunteered at food drives, played keyboard in the choir. Pastor Grant remembered him well. When Sierra visited, the pastor's expression was tight, concerned. Pastor Grant explained. He came here 2 nights before he died. Wasn't himself. Said he needed to talk about something he couldn't shake. Asked me about annulments. About forgiveness. Sierra shocked and remarked, Annulments. Pastor nods. Said he was married to a woman he didn't know anymore. That the woman he was with might not be who she says she is. That same night, security footage from the church showed Darius meeting with a woman in white, face hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. They spoke for 22 minutes. Then she hugged him and walked away. Her walk, identical to Monica's, but her clothes didn't match anything Monica wore to the funeral or anything friends had ever seen her wear. Was it Monica, or was it someone else? Monica never filed the divorce, but her devotion wasn't love. It was possession. What she couldn't keep in life, she'd bury in death. The deeper Sierra and Jasmine looked, the more off everything felt. Darius's life insurance policy listed Monica. His work emergency contact, still Monica. His medical power of attorney, Monica. Nothing had changed, even though he thought it had, because he trusted her to file the papers, to do the right thing. But Monica was never interested in endings. She was writing a different kind of story, one where she never left the last page blank. Somewhere in a quiet part of Atlanta, a backyard fire pit glowed under the moonlight. A gloved hand dropped in a stack of paper. Legal documents, emails, photos. One page curled upward as it burned. Revised Will D. Holloway. The flames flickered against the reflection of a woman in a window. She didn't blink. She didn't cry. She simply whispered. He was never supposed to leave. Some marriages die quietly. Others don't die at all. Monica didn't lose a husband. She rewrote his ending. But the truth, like the dead, always has a way of coming back. Grief wears many faces, but some faces are masks. The woman who buried Darius Holloway claimed to be his widow. The woman who loved him in his final days claimed to be his future. But now a third woman has emerged, and she may be the only one who knew how and why he really died. The church's security camera was old, grainy, time-stamped footage that jittered every few seconds. But what it captured on June 28th, 8:46 p.m., was unmistakable. Darius Holloway, pacing, hands wringing, talking on the phone, presumed to be Sierra. Then a black SUV pulls up. A woman steps out, tall, slender, wearing a flowing white coat, wide-brimmed white hat, and leather gloves, despite the sweltering heat. No face shown, only a silhouette and a strut, confident, controlled. She walks straight to Darius. They embrace for a moment too long to be casual, too long to be new. Then he says something urgent. She nods, hands him a small manila envelope, whispers in his ear, and walks away. That woman wasn't Monica. Jasmine returned to her father's condo alone. It had been 3 days since Monica moved in, but Monica was out, likely at her attorney's. Jasmine still had a key, still had a bedroom there once. She needed something familiar. The apartment smelled different. Lavender, bleach, new perfume. But his closet was the same. Shoes aligned, ties by color, and above the coat rack, a locked gun case. She didn't know the code, but she knew her father. Tried his birthday. Didn't work. Then she tried Jasmine 13, his password for everything. Click. Inside, his pistol, an old cell phone, and a flash drive. The flash drive had 3 folders. Legal docs, photos, audio M. Inside audio M was a single file, recorded voice memo. Darius, urgent, anxious. If anything happens to me, this needs to go to Detective Lena Ortega, Midtown PD. The woman in the footage. She's not who she says she is. She called herself Leni. I don't know where Monica found her, but she knew things about me. Things no one else should. Sierra and Jasmine sat frozen in Sierra's living room as they listened. He sounded frightened. Not paranoid. Not unstable. Frightened. Jasmine did what any teenager would. She Googled Leni plus Monica Holloway. Nothing at first. Then a single hit. A Facebook post from 2016. An old photo. Monica standing beside a woman with the caption, "Family reunion with my long-lost twin flame cousin to hearts. Hashtag Leni, hashtag blood ties." Jasmine zoomed in. It was her Aunt Rochelle. The woman Monica said died in a fire in Jacksonville. But if Rochelle was dead, who was Leni? And why did she call herself that name to Darius? Sierra made some calls. Back in 2016, Rochelle Holloway, Monica's cousin, had been living in Florida. Her house burned in an electrical fire. One body was recovered, charred beyond recognition. Dental records were requested but never confirmed. Rochelle's dental office had closed a year prior. The coroner made a presumptive ID. No autopsy, no criminal investigation. But now Sierra was beginning to wonder. Did Rochelle fake her death? And was Monica involved? Sierra returned to Trinity United to speak again with Pastor Grant. This time, she brought Jasmine and the audio. He sat in silence for a long while after listening. Then he said, "I knew that woman wasn't Monica. I've known Monica for years. That woman," she kept her face hidden, spoke softly, "but I felt something dark on her." He said she asked Darius a strange question. "Do you want your story to end on your terms or hers?" He wouldn't say more, but before Sierra left, he handed her a slip of paper. A name, Detective Lena Ortega. The name from the recording. The one Darius trusted. The one who might still be listening. Detective Lena Ortega was calm, composed. A woman who carried a badge like a compass, not a shield. She listened. To the recording. To the story. To Jasmine's voice, cracking as she described the Bible message. Then she said, "There's something you need to know. This isn't the first time Monica's name has come up, connected to someone who died. A man in Monica's past, Marcus Tisdale, a former fiancé, had died of a sleeping pill overdose in 2004, ruled accidental. But Monica had been the last one to see him," Ortega stated. "And now, You're telling me a woman thought to be dead is alive and meeting Darius 2 nights before his death? That makes her a suspect, not a memory. That night, Sierra received another voicemail. Same distorted voice. Same unknown number. You think she's done with you? The widow always wins. You should have stayed away. Sierra replayed it 6 times. This time, she recorded it and emailed it to Detective Ortega. She called Jasmine into the room. Do you know what this means? Jasmine, quiet. She's not done. The next morning, Sierra checked her mailbox. Inside was a single envelope. No return address. Just her name. She opened it. A single card. White. No message. Only one phrase written in neat cursive. He was mine before he was yours. Taped to the inside was a lock of hair. Black. Curled. Still smelling faintly of Darius's cologne. Sierra dropped it. Jasmine screamed. It was no longer about who loved her more. It was about who wanted to own the last word, even in death. That night, Jasmine had a dream. She was back in her father's condo. But everything was gray. The lights flickered. She heard music, his favorite gospel song. She walked to the living room. The TV was on. Security footage playing on loop. The woman in white, again and again. But this time, the woman turned, looked straight into the camera, and whispered, "You should have stayed out of grown folks' business, baby girl." Jasmine woke up screaming, and on her nightstand, a single white glove. The woman in white was no ghost. She was flesh, breath, and vengeance, and she had unfinished business with everyone Darius left behind. What is a will, if not a declaration of truth? A man's last words when he can no longer speak. But in Darius Holloway's case, his final wishes were silenced, rewritten, or worse, buried alive. Detective Lena Ortega sat in her office, the flash drive on her desk like a ticking bomb. The recording was enough to raise questions, but questions weren't evidence. She picked up her phone and called Raymond Lovell, the state attorney Darius had trusted. "I need the original copy of the will Darius Holloway brought you in April." Lovell hesitated. "Detective, that document was never signed. I still have it, but legally." Ortega firm. "Legally he died intestate. But if someone interfered with the signing, if someone knew what he intended and stopped him, it becomes obstruction. Or worse." Lovell faxed the documents that same day. A signature line. Blank. But the instructions were clear. Sierra Langston, beneficiary. Jasmine Holloway, sole heir. Monica Holloway, removed entirely. Jasmine remembered something. Her father once told her, "Not everything belongs at home. Some things need to sleep under lock and key." She convinced Sierra to take her to the bank, where Darius had his accounts. As his legal daughter, Jasmine had rights to request access to his safe deposit box. If it existed, it did. After 2 hours and a stack of paperwork, the vault was opened. Inside, a black leather journal, a stack of family photos, a second flash drive, and a sealed envelope marked, "Do not trust Monica." The journal wasn't like Darius. It was raw, unfiltered, angry, each entry dated, each line tighter than the last. April 3rd. Monica followed me again. Said she just wanted to talk. Then asked if I was seeing Sierra seriously. Her face didn't move when I said yes. April 10th. Got a call from a block number. Rochelle's voice. Or someone who sounds like her. She said, "Tell your new girl goodbye." I haven't heard that voice since 2016. April 17th. Woke up and my phone was gone. Found it in the kitchen drawer. I didn't put it there. Only Sierra and Jasmine have a key, and neither of them were here. April 30th. I'm being watched. The last entry, dated June 27th, 3 days before his death. Monica came by unannounced. She brought wine. Said she was ready to make peace. I didn't drink any. She stayed 15 minutes. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Detective Ortega requested a copy of Darius's toxicology report. Initial cause of death, cardiac arrest. But she noticed something odd. Elevated levels of zolpidem, a prescription sleep aid. Enough to knock out a 200 pounds man in minutes. No prescription on file. No bottle in the apartment. No mention in the autopsy. Someone gave Darius a pill. Or several. Someone with access. Someone with motive. Monica had once taught English, yes, but she also minored in pharmacology before switching degrees. Pastor Grant called Sierra the next morning. Quietly. Something's been on my conscience. Darius gave me something that night, told me to keep it safe. I didn't think it mattered. Now I think I was wrong. She met him in his study. He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, a single USB thumb drive and a handwritten note. Pastor, if I don't make it through this weekend, give this to Sierra. She's the only one who'll know what to do with it. The video file on the USB was grainy, clearly recorded from a hidden angle. It showed Darius's kitchen. Date stamped, June 30th, 12:42 a.m. About 90 minutes before his death. Darius walks in. He's groggy, holding his head. His balance is off. He stumbles toward the sink, whispers, What was in that? Then a shadow enters the frame. The camera is too high to show the face, but the figure is slender, tall, wearing white, leather gloves. The woman stands behind him, reaches into her coat, pulls out something metallic. Darius, weakly, You don't have to do this. The woman leans close, her voice barely audible. Unknown woman whispers, You should have filed the papers. Then the screen goes black. It wasn't a heart attack. It wasn't grief. It wasn't fate. It was planned, precise, and calculated down to the minute. Detective Ortega now had 2 unfiled wills, 2 flash drives, a toxicology report with irregularities, and a growing suspicion that Darius Holloway had been murdered by someone who knew the law and how to stay just behind it. She filed a warrant for Monica Holloway's phone records and bank history, which she found added fuel to the fire. 3 weeks before Darius's death, his life insurance beneficiary had been switched back to Monica. Someone had called from his number, authorized the change. The voice had passed the verification test, but it wasn't Darius. That same week, a $4,200 withdrawal was made from Monica's account to a cash transfer service in Jacksonville, Florida. Recipient name, Leniar. A partial match for Rochelle's full name, Rochelle Leni Whitaker. Ortega sent a forensic image analyst to enhance the church footage. They isolated frames showing the woman's gait, her posture, even the slight curve of a scar above her right wrist, captured for a split second, cross-referenced with old DMV photos of Rochelle Whitaker. It was a match. The woman thought to be dead for 9 years was very much alive, and now she was a suspect in a murder, or the accessory to one. Monica stared at herself in the mirror, the lights off, her face lit only by the flickering TV across the room. A news report played softly, another homicide downtown. Nothing to do with her. She applied her lipstick slowly. Red, always red. From her closet, she removed a long white coat, pressed it gently, brushed off a speck of ash, then whispered, They think they're close, but they have no idea what I've done to keep this mine. In the reflection, her phone buzzed. A blocked number. She smiled and answered, quietly, Is it done? A pause. Then, Good. Make sure she never finds a second will. Where there's a will, there's a war. And this one wasn't over. Not by a long shot. A man is dead. His widow, not truly a widow. His will rewritten. His life erased. But the silence left behind? That's starting to make noise. Because the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Not when the living are still haunted by what the dead couldn't say. Jasmine woke to the sound of humming. Not in the room. Not outside. Inside her own head. The same song her father used to play on Sunday mornings. His version of gospel joy. She followed the sound to the living room of Sierra's apartment. No music playing. Just an open laptop. The screen showed a paused video, accidentally left on from the night before. It was the church footage. The woman in white. Darius's final meeting. But now Jasmine noticed something new. A necklace, slipping briefly from under the woman's coat. Gold, oval pendant, with the letter R engraved. The ghost wasn't a memory. She was flesh, and her name started with R. Detective Ortega's phone buzzed at 3:13 a.m. It was Sierra, panicked, breathing heavy. Someone broke into my car, took my laptop, didn't take my purse, didn't touch the stereo, just the laptop. Inside the stolen laptop was all the footage, the scanned copy of the unfiled will, Darius's journal entries. It wasn't a random break-in. It was a message. Ortega stated, "They know we're close." Detective Ortega made a bold move. She reached out to someone who hadn't spoken in over a decade, Andre Whitaker, Rochelle's younger brother. He now lived in Birmingham, Alabama, worked as a mechanic, had long since cut ties with Monica's side of the family. But when Ortega showed him the church footage, his hands began to tremble. Andre whispers, "That's her. That's Rochelle." Ortega asked, "Are you sure?" Andre responded, "That's my sister. She had that same necklace since high school. We buried an empty box." He paused, then added, "I always thought Monica had something to do with her disappearing. She was too calm at the funeral. Never cried. Just said, 'It's better this way.'" That afternoon, Jasmine and Sierra sat down with Ortega again. Jasmine brought up a memory she had pushed down for years. Back in 2016, after Aunt Rochelle's funeral, I walked into the garage. My mom was burning something in the fireplace. Ortega asked, "What was it?" Jasmine responded, "I saw a photo. It was Rochelle, but it was marked with a red X, and there was another photo under it of my dad." Ortega scribbled notes. This wasn't grief. This was a pattern. Obsession. Possession. Control. The original toxicology report had ruled out foul play, but with new footage and allegations, Ortega ordered a full re-examination. She pulled in an independent toxicologist. The results: zolpidem present in fatal concentrations, traces of scopolamine, a powerful dissociative often referred to as devil's breath. Toxicologist: in the wrong hands, that combination could stop a man's heart and make it look natural, and if administered in wine or tea, virtually untraceable without suspicion. Darius didn't die in his sleep. He was put to sleep and never allowed to wake up. A breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A private investigator Sierra hired weeks ago, who had finally tracked something unusual. Multiple wire transfers made to a woman named Limi R.W. in Belize. The name matched a fake passport issued in 2017 photo. Rochelle Whitaker. New identity. New life. She's alive. Or at least, she was up until 3 months ago. A passport scan from a private jet terminal in Jacksonville showed Rochelle boarding a flight to Atlanta 72 hours before Darius died. Detective Ortega received a second flash drive, this time, mailed to her precinct anonymously. Inside was one video file. Darius, sitting at his kitchen table. Date June 29th. His face is weary, but his eyes are focused. Darius, to camera. "If this makes it out, then I was right to be scared. Rochelle is alive. Monica brought her back. Said she needed a shadow to fix things. I don't know what they're planning, but I found her prints on my door. You hear that, Monica? I know. I know what you're doing." He didn't know the recording would become his obituary. A man documenting the plot against him and dying days later. Detective Ortega obtained a warrant from Monica's storage unit on the edge of Fulton County. Inside, officers found a box of Rochelle's old clothes, burned fragments of a marriage certificate, framed wedding photos, Monica and Darius, and a black notebook filled with handwritten timelines. The final entry, June 30th, silence. Sierra went back to the condo one last time. Jasmine refused to go, said she'd had enough of shadows. But Sierra needed closure. She walked the halls, checked drawers, opened every cabinet. Then, in the vent behind the headboard of Darius's bed, she found it. A manila envelope, duct taped to the wall. Inside, a signed and dated copy of his revised will, witnessed by 2 people, a notary and Pastor Grant. Stamped, time-stamped, June 29th, 4:12 p.m. Filed. No, because Darius never got the chance. He did everything right. but it still wasn't enough to stop what was coming. That night, Sierra received a voicemail. The voice was unmistakable. "Monica," calmly, "you think you've won. You think paperwork can bring someone back. But the law doesn't protect you when you trespass where you don't belong. I buried my husband. And if you keep digging, I'll bury the truth too." Click. Some stories are told in courtrooms, others in whispers. But this story has one last page still turning, and someone's hand is already reaching for the pen. By now you know the names. You know the grief, the deception, the erasure. But this story, this murder cloaked in marital confusion, isn't just about who Darius Holloway was to each woman. It's about who each woman became after he was gone. Detective Lena Ortega had been in law enforcement for over 15 years. She'd handled high-profile drug busts, gone undercover, testified in 3 murder trials. But this one was different. Not because it was messy, not because it was layered, but because it was personal to the victims, to the suspects, and now to her. She sat in her car outside Trinity United Church, staring at the newly found signed will of Darius Holloway. She knew what it meant. Monica no longer had legal claim to the estate. Sierra was the rightful beneficiary, Jasmine the sole heir. And yet, Monica hadn't even blinked, because she had something more powerful than paperwork: control. Sierra couldn't sleep. She couldn't eat. Jasmine, despite her strength, had begun pulling away. She stopped attending school, refused therapy, and once, Sierra found her staring out the window whispering, "I feel like she's still here." That night, Sierra drove to the police station. Alone, she handed Ortega her personal statement, signed and notarized. Monica Holloway is dangerous. She faked a divorce, manipulated a man's death, buried his truth, and is now stalking his daughter. Please protect Jasmine, whatever it takes. It was the voice of a woman who had nothing left to lose, except her child. A break finally came through a local tip line. A woman, thin, unkempt, in a white coat, was spotted behind a closed hair salon in East Point. She was asking for money. Said her name was Lini. Ortega raced to the location, but by the time they arrived, the woman was gone. Only a scrap of paper left behind on the bench where she sat. On it scribbled, "Monica said I wouldn't survive the guilt, but she made sure I didn't have a choice." A DNA swab from a discarded water bottle confirmed the impossible. Rochelle Whitaker was alive, with the signed will, toxicology report, the journal entries, the voice memos, and now the confirmed survival of Rochelle. Ortega had enough to pursue a grand jury indictment. Charges recommended: murder in the first degree, Monica Holloway; conspiracy to commit murder, Rochelle Whitaker; fraudulent misrepresentation of legal documents; tampering with an estate. Sierra and Jasmine attended the hearing, not as victims, but as witnesses, as survivors. And when Jasmine took the stand, the courtroom fell silent. Jasmine, tearfully, "She didn't just take my dad's life. She erased him, replaced his truth with her story. But I remember the real him, and that's what I came to protect." Monica refused a plea deal. Her lawyers argued. No direct video of Monica administering drugs. No proof she ordered Rochelle to impersonate her. No motive that could override reasonable doubt. In court, Monica wore white, as if daring them to confuse her for the ghost she created. When asked if she had any final statement before sentencing, she simply said, "I love my husband. Everything I did to keep his name clean." To which the judge replied, "You didn't keep his name clean, Mrs. Holloway. You buried it in lies." 3 weeks into trial, Rochelle was located, found at a rundown motel under an alias. Exhausted, emaciated, confused, she took a plea deal. In exchange for testimony, she received 12 years, reduced to 7 with parole, full immunity on forgery and ID theft. In her confession, she said, "Monica told me faking my death was the only way to escape my charges in Florida. I owed her. She said I'd have a new life, a better one. But she used me. She used me to scare Darius, to break Sierra, to control the story. And when he figured it out, she told me. Make sure he never tells it. The courtroom wept, except Monica. She didn't blink. After the trial, Sierra organized a second memorial for Darius. A real one. No lawyers. No legal documents. Just a framed photo of the man he truly was. Father, musician, dreamer, man trying to escape the past. Jasmine spoke last. She held her father's journal in her hands and read from the final page. One he had never written, but one she wrote for him. You wanted to leave love behind, and someone tried to stop you. But they couldn't stop your words. They couldn't stop your truth. You live in every note I play, every choice I make, every breath I take. I forgive you for not seeing her coming, but I will never let her win. They released white balloons into the sky. This time, no white coats, no shadows, only light. In the end, love was not what killed Darius Holloway. Control did. Possession disguised as loyalty, and grief weaponized as performance. Monica wore widowhood like a badge, but the truth wore no veil, and it was Jasmine, his daughter, who brought it into the light. Monica was sentenced to life without parole. Rochelle entered a rehabilitation program in prison. Sierra returned to her photography. Jasmine enrolled in college. But every now and then, Jasmine dreams of a piano, and someone behind her, gently humming. Not Rochelle, not Monica, but him. Sometimes the dead don't talk, but if you listen closely enough, those they loved will tell the story for them. Loud, clear, and without fear. In the end, the tragedy of Darius Holloway wasn't just that a good man died too soon. It was that he died while still trying to untangle himself from the hands that claimed to love him. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a crime of control, of ego, and of silence. Monica wore marriage like armor, but love isn't ownership. It's not a title, a contract, or a name on a policy. Real love frees. It does not bind. It tells the truth, even when it hurts. And it lets go, even when it's hard. Darius tried to move on. He tried to rewrite his ending, but by the time he found the courage to speak, someone had already decided what his silence was worth. Let this story be a wake-up call. If something feels wrong, say something. Document it. Tell someone. The most dangerous lies are the ones we're too afraid to challenge. And sometimes, the people we need to protect ourselves from are the ones closest to us. Love without truth is manipulation. And silence, when you know better, is complicity. If this story moved you, made you think, or reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, leave a comment below. What would you have done if you were in Darius's shoes, or Jasmine's? Hit the like button if you believe every victim deserves their story told, fully and truthfully. Share this video with someone who might be struggling to walk away from a dangerous situation. You never know whose life you might help save. And don't forget to subscribe to Twisted Guilts for more real-life stories that uncover what happens behind closed doors and the courage it takes to survive them. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we tell the truth.